Good morning. So, what is the architectural characteristics of a particular good software, a good application as an architect? There is no right definition of any software architecture, right? So, as of the software principle, architecture must adhere of all the principles, all the solid principles, then best practices and all, right? So today we learn the brief information about all the key points about architectural characteristics, and then in the subsequent session we will discuss for all the piece of those information, those the keywords with the industry experienced architect, from the mobility, from the UI, from the DevOps, from the cloud, from the different background. So my name is Rakesh. I'm working as a senior solution architect. I have approximately 19 years of experience into the IT industry. So past 7 or 8 years, I'm working as a different applications and the different domain as a technical architect, solution architect, and the enterprise architect, and then serve to the multi-billion-dollar application from the mobile and the UI development, pre-sales, solutioning. So welcome to the Teach Taught, the Young Indian Technical Talk channels are platforms where anybody can share their experiences, their point of view, their thought, their the insights on particular technologies, particular industries, particular tools, technologies, anything. So if you want to participate in such kind of the discussion, please feel free to drop a message. We'll share your experience to the world, to your juniors altogether. So let's start with what is a characteristics of a good, effective, proper architecture. So guys, any software architecture, right? So any software architecture basically has or inbuilt with a couple of things, right? So it's required some that like a human intention, right? It's required some sort of businesses, right? Then it's required some sort of the design principles, right? Then it's required some sort of UX, right? Then some attribution of systems, right? Then some sort of that clouds, or you can say that not the clouds, basically you can say that environments, right, altogether. But what is the actual intention of all these topics, right? So what is the actual intention of this topic is nothing but a better, effective architecture solution. Am I right? So if you want to learn or if you wanted or become an architect, or it's not a good architect, it's a best into the industry architect, right? So you have to follow some principle, some methodology, some process, some characteristics you have to involved into your architecture, right? So those a good software architecture characteristics is, or that makes many things, right, easier for the developer, right, for the tester, for the DevOps people, engineers, POs, stakeholders, right? So if you create a proper design, if you create a good architecture, it helps everyone. All right. So a software architecture characteristics defines some sort of your what do you say? It's a nothing but a structure of the code, right? It's give you that structure of the code, right? It's also give you the behavior, or you can say the good behavior of your system, right? Then it's also give you that relationship between two components, right? How your two components communicate in the real scenarios. And there are so many other points that we will elaborate in the subsequent discussion. So here we'll give you that high level of characteristics of any application. So it's a generic. We'll discuss a specialized for and mobile, Android for UI, Android for different sort of the cloud architecture, cloud infrastructure, and all together. So let's have a what are the characteristics of a architectural characteristics of a application. So here, so architectural characteristics. Okay. See, there, as I said that there is no good architect, no bad architect, no good architecture, not a bad architecture. It depends on the architecture and then the community, that how they define such things. So here I'll follow that some best practices from the architect society, architect community. So this categorization, that characteristics categorizations may differ from arc to arc, architect to architect. Right? So here I divided entire architecture or the characteristics into 3 to 4 segments. So that the first segment will be your, let's say, the creational. So don't be hurry that I am teaching you the design patterns, because creational, then structural. So once you create it, you have to give the structural to that. Then that obviously once you structure it, then how it's behave, right? Behavioral. And then the one part is also we have is, you can also park like that operation. Okay, some of the architect may define this part operational, this part into the behavioral itself, or some of the components on that somewhere else. So nobody. So this is just as I said, that any architect can define anything in that part. So now let me define it. So let me give that a little bigger size. Okay, so what are the things comes under the creational? Alright, so here let me talk like scalability, right? So scalability of a particular system, how your system or your application is scalable, right? Scalable to what extent? So we'll discuss these terms in terms of the mobile, in terms of the web, in terms of the cloud all together in the subsequent session, right? Then the what is the availability, right? So we used to discuss that, okay, hey, my application is available by this so and so, okay, so we'll discuss that, okay, all together. Then what is the durability, right, of the application? So I can say that I have defined my creational characteristic into scalability, availabilities, and durabilities. So in the scalabilities, you can define like how your system handles your traffic patterns, or what is your traffic patterns of, right? Then second would be the elasticity, right, how, and then the third would be latency. So when you define your system, when as arc you create architecture of an application, you just think about this. We'll discuss every point, we'll discuss in the subsequent session, but at this point of time you just understand that, okay, you have to think about this, right? So when we talk about the availability, it's nothing but a kind of deployments, how you are deploying your system effectively. And then durabilities consist of, again, that, okay, the multiple, whether your system is replicable or not, whether your system is or has a good fault tolerance or not, whether your system has good archiveabilities or not, so that, okay, you can at any point of time you can archive, you can retrieve that, okay, some data and all together, right? So when we talk about this structural part of the architecture, then we can talk some things about agility first. So what we can consider on that agility, whether it's a clear understandability or not, right? So when you arc, as an arc, you construct your application, it should be easily understandable to each and every level of the team, either the stakeholders or your developers or the queue. So it should be your architecture should be understandabilities or more, or you can say the easy understandable to everyone, right? Then it should be proper, right, configurables. So it should be the good abilities, so it should be configurables easily, right? And then the deployabilities. Okay. So sometimes you park some of the content over here, some of the content over here, some of the content here over here. So depends on that, okay, where you want it to your component to be, all right? So then once that, okay, agility, then you can think about your usability of the system, right? So usability, So under the usability, you can say that whether you have your API contrast, right, whether you have accessibilities, and then whether you have learnabilities, right. So once you are done with your usability, then you can think about your extensibility of the application. Extensibility of an application. So whether, so this is a more important for the dev perspective. So where your application is modular, whether your application is component based, right, whether your application has a reusability concept, right, whether your application is pluggability, it has a pluggabilities or not. So like that, right, whether which follows that solid principles or not, you can say the simple language, right. Then you can think about your resiliency, right. So whether we have a proper recoverabilities, whether we targeted or not, or what are the design patterns we are using here, right. So once your understandings in the usability to the resilience, then you can think about observabilities. So you can think about right. So in here you consider about the all the logins principles, all right, then that alerts, then that the monitoring tools altogether, and then the so on, right. And then you have a behavioral, let's say that I'll park here the behaviorals. So again that for the behaviorals you can consider that whether it's a securability, whether you have a security or not, right. So again that under the security there is plenty of things, right. So you can think about whether you have a proper authentication and authorization, right, whether we have that audit, right, auditabilities or not, and then whether we have a legal. So basically we have that all those legality or not, whether we have used any something like that, right. Then you can think about your, right, then you can think about